You're watching Oilers Nation Everyday with Tyler Yaremchuk. Your one-stop shop for all things Oilers.
Still not Wednesday. Let's get into it with the lead. It's going to be a long 48 hours, Liam, but it feels good. I'm fired up.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. The tension is building. People are coming to this city. I'm glad it's here this time.
Oh, it's nice.
It does feel a little bit different, but it's exciting. The Stanley Cup is here. Almost. It probably is here.
It's usually kicking around at Media Day.
Yeah.
Welcome into Oilersnation Everyday. We are live from the Sports Closet studio, taking the show on the road. From jerseys to hats to the legendary foam finger, you'll find it all and more at the Sports Closet. The show, as always, a presentation of Bet365. Download the app. Use the promo code NATION, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. And as you can tell by the ambiance and the look behind us right now, we are also live out at Sherwood Power Sports and Marine, kicking off our week of finals coverage. Cup final coverage, I think is what we're saying. Cup final coverage.
Cup final coverage.
Correct.
Not the finals, because that would mean we cover basketball.
Yeah, that would mean we cover basketball. We cover hockey. But our friends at Sherwood Power Sports and Marine want to let you know that their Yamaha Demo Tour event is coming up this Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., 371 Lakeland Drive, right in the heart of Sherwood Park. And as you look behind us, you will see a bunch of the Yamaha bikes that you can not only get your hands on, but get your hands on for a banging price. So shout out to our friends at Sherwood Power Sports and Marine for having us out today. Excited to be kicking off what is a very, very fun week at a very, very fun spot. Boats, outdoor gear, they got it all upstairs. Every accessory you could ever imagine. Their service department's right behind us, right in the heart of Sherwood Park, Sherwood Power Sports and Marine, right down the road from Sherwood Ford the Giant. Liam, as we kick off Cup Final week, I did this with Frank Saravalli today, but I kind of said, Frank, give me your opening thoughts on this Stanley Cup Final as you sit and you've now had the weekend of, no hockey on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. We've had a lot of chance to sit and kind of stew on this thing and think about what's going to be different this time around. What do you think is going to be different? What's your just gut sort of first 3 sentences on this series?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel much better this year than I did last year. I feel like this team is ready for it more than they were the year before. And also, too, we'll talk to Louie more about this as well, just feel healthier overall. The vibe around the team just feels a lot different, and I think health is a big factor of that.
Yeah, for me, I think it's a combination of things that really push the needle towards the Edmonton Oilers, whereas last year I think the needle was definitely pushed a tick more in the Florida Panthers direction, and that would be starting this series at home is massive. Gregor says in the last 19 Stanley Cup Finals, the team with home ice advantage is 13-6, and now you could maybe point to that and say, well, yeah, of course they're 13-6. They're the better team, but the team with the most wins in the regular season, the most points in the regular season gets home ice advantage. I would point to that and say, it's easier to start the series on time and not get caught up in the whole hoopla of the Stanley Cup Final. I mean, last year, when you think about it, and I don't remember the exact days of the week, but game 1 this year is on a Wednesday. Game 2 the day before that, the Tuesday, is going to be Media Day, which means the Florida Panthers are flying in today, and they got to spend tonight and Tuesday night in Edmonton before you get to game day, and then it's a game day in Edmonton, and then another off day, and then again, it's tough to be the road team in this situation with all the extracurriculars that go into the Stanley Cup Final. So not only do the Oilers hold that advantage, but also, you got the patch on your jersey. You have the pregame ceremony and all of that kind of stuff. It's totally different when you're on the road and you have to stand there for 10 minutes before the game as they do all this stuff, and it's the other team's fans making noise. It's their hype video, right? It's all of that. There's just more comfort being at home. There's naturally now also more comfort in the Edmonton Oilers playing in a Stanley Cup Final. So I think both of those things just do a lot. And on top of that, I really like this Oilers team's roster, because how could you not? And the way that they've, I won't say dismantled their last 2 playoff opponents in the Dallas Stars and the Vegas Golden Knights, but the way that they win those series, even though on paper and when you look at everything throughout the season, those should have been 6 or 7 game series that probably go either way. The Oilers decisively win them both. And not only that, They're 8-2 in those 2 rounds. The 2 losses are a boneheaded play at the buzzer where you score on yourself, boneheaded plays, and then a play where you score on yourself. And then the other one is your penalty kill, and the other team's power play, to their credit, totally takes over for 6 minutes. You blink, and after playing 40 unbelievable minutes, you lose a hockey game, and then you win 4 straight against the Dallas Stars.
Yeah. I know a lot of people have said is that, well, home ice hasn't mattered for Edmonton so far in this playoffs, and they're right. And the same thing with Florida too. I believe they've started on the road in every series, maybe not the first one, but I think when you look at Florida as well, like similar to Edmonton, they were down 2-0 in that series to Toronto. Like it does make a big difference, like you said. I think starting this one, it just feels like almost a different season in a way. Like it's almost 3 seasons in the NHL if you can get to the third one, being the Stanley Cup Final, and it's just a completely different vibe, attitude, everything. But I do think, obviously, we all know how great the Oilers have been at home so far this playoffs. They've lost once, and again, that was that one play with 0.4 seconds left, and it makes a huge difference. So, yeah, I'm ready to go, and I'm sure they wish this game was starting today and not on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like, again, if you could have sped it up a couple of days, I would have loved that. I would have loved for this thing to start even tomorrow. But I also think, listen, we want a weekend playoff home date in Edmonton, right? And I'm sure OEG has a lot of say in that. And listen, the fans want it too. Like, don't you all want a Friday night where you're either going to the game or going to Greta, and then the puck, or the buzzer, I should say, goes at 8:30, and you have the whole evening to go nuts with all your friends, like all that stuff.
And it's daylight till 10:30.
It's the best. It's the best, Liam. Like, you could, not that I wouldn't, but for an Oilers fan out there, you could watch a Stanley Cup playoff game and go get 9 holes of golf in after.
You really could.
That's crazy.
Derek asked in a YouTube chat, do we know why there is an extra day when they're down in Florida for the 3 and 4? The NBA Finals is on the Wednesday, so they didn't want to have the collide. So it was either have 3 days off between games 2 and 3, or have 2 days off between 3 and 4.
All right, let's go out to the YouTube chat, Liam, because I want to hear from you, the people. You're what makes doing this show so much fun. You're what makes the Stanley Cup Final, being in Edmonton, so much fun. YouTube chat brought to you by our friends at Odd Company Brewing and the Nation Beer Everyday Lager, a crisp, clean lager crafted not just for game day, but for every day. I see a couple of comments in here. Car Ticky Tack, a few others. Is Tyler powering through something? I'm suffering through the weird combination of, like, I thought I had a bit of a cold on Friday. I thought I'd beaten the cold, had a couple of beers at a family event on Saturday, but spent all of basically Friday and Saturday and Sunday outside.
Yeah.
So now my seasonal allergies with the wind and the lingering cold, I got a couple of things that are nicking at me a little bit, but it's the playoffs. We grind through. You think I was taking a sick day today?
Of course.
Never heard of one.
Play through it. What I will say to all of you people listening out there clearly is a little bit of something going around here.
Oh, yeah.
If you see an Oiler in public,
don't touch them.
If you see a family member in public,
if you see Connor McDavid's dad, you just ignore
don't go
him.
near them.
Yep.
Stay well away. Because we do not need anything spreading onto these boys. They already saw it in Vancouver last season when they were clearly, I remember Matthias Ekholm did sound like a different man. It's just helping these guys out a little bit.
Yep.
Florida, though, I probably
Give them a
shake
hug.
their hands,
Kiss 'em.
whatever it takes.
Mulick, Florida is a team full of dump and chase. Moving the puck out is going to cut them up. It's going to be beautiful to watch. So that's an area where I'm very, very excited to see, or to have Chris Peters on, or Steve Peters, I should say, on the show. He's going to join us closer to 1 o'clock. We are doing shows that extend past an hour for the entire Stanley Cup Final. So we're going to have 2 guests every day, all that stuff. But Peters at 1 o'clock, Louie DeBrusk coming up at 12:20. So I really like that too, kind of the former player's opinion, the former coach's opinion, or video coach with the Arizona Coyotes, and Steve Peters. I think we're going to get a couple of really, really good takes on this series on the show today. Jonathan is in with $4.99. He says, flying in from Ohio for games 1 and 2. Let's go Oilers. It's revenge time. We got Jonathan flying in from Ohio. We got our friend Brandon flying in from Missouri.
Yes, St. Louis.
St. Louis.
He's from.
I love it. I love the super fans that are going to travel from every corner because, again, you've now had basically, you can say Thursday, but almost before that, you've had some heads up here. This was not like you win game 7, 3 days later the series starts. You got some heads up. I think there's going to be a lot of out-of-towners in. Our friend Devin, he's coming later in the series.
Devin will be here. Also, Captain Felton's coming in from Vancouver as well. The shortest traveled of them all, but he's coming in. Always love to see the captain, but obviously we'll be down in Florida as well the week after. So if anyone's around there, I'm sure we'll. I can't remember the place we went to last year for pre-game drinks, but I'm sure we'll figure out a spot.
Yard House.
Was it Yard? Yeah, that's right. It was.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we'll figure out a way to do that. Hopefully we can see our friend Justin again. And if you're going down there, let us know. It'd be great to see you all.
JT says, if I plan to watch Game 5 at Greta, do you guys know if an entry ticket is required? No, and if you're riding solo, you can probably just show up and get a spot either at the bar or standing room somewhere by our Oilers Nation section.
Patio
as
should
well.
be open.
Patio will be open, which is always a good time. So again, if you're a solo, you're good. If you're a group, Aaron, I need you to text me the number that I need to text to get a reservation. If you're a group, you probably want to call ahead for whatever game it is right now because it's already filling up. Bo is in. Kane healthy, ready to repeat the Flame series by getting back in Kachuk's grill. There are a bunch of different elements of this series that really, really change from last year. And I guess we can get into that now. And I'm changing up the order of the show a little bit here, but I want to do one big take for our friends at Boston Pizza. If we plan it, we will win it. When you're sitting there at night, tonight, tomorrow night, dreaming, getting ready for game 1 of this series, think about what if the Oilers win the first 2 games? What will you do? How excited will you be? Think about if they win, what will you do? How excited will you be? Manifest it, believe. It's been 32 long years since a Canadian team has won it all. And boy, the boys in Edmonton have a great shot at doing it this year. Along the lines of Kane being fully healthy and a bunch of stuff, man, Draisaitl held without a goal last year in the Cup Final. Evan Bouchard held without a goal last year in the Cup Final. So many players were just, by the end of that run, Liam, they had nothing left in the tank. Like, we were having conversations, and it eventually led to Evander Kane not playing anymore. But it was like, how long do you keep playing Evander Kane if he's not at his best? Even a guy like Zach Hyman at points looked like he was running out of gas. Like, coming back from down 3-0 was so impressive by the Oilers. But what makes it even more miraculous is that they very much, it was McDavid. McDavid willed that series to a 7th game, and that's not to say no one else played a key role. They got depth scoring, all that stuff, but like so many of their big guns just didn't have it in them, and they ran out of gas by game 7 because it couldn't just keep being Connor. This year is so different. You can talk about all the external factors, and yes, it sucks they don't have a guy like Zach Hyman, but you know that from the jump. And you have this extra layer of depth where, like, even with no Zach Hyman, we're still talking about a guy like Jeff Skinner potentially being healthy scratched. And all these other guys are continuing to play good hockey. The forward group and the key pieces in the forward group being full of juice and ready to go. I'm not reading anything into Connor McDavid leaving practice. Gregor said today on the DFO rundown it may have as well have been an equipment issue.
Yes.
No concerns about Connor McDavid. This forward group, the guys who are going to be in the lineup for game 1, should all be 100% in the gas tank. And that's exciting.
Yeah, it does give you a bit more, a higher level of optimism, I think you could say, too. And you even think back to the playoffs, the final specifically last year. There was only really that one game guys like McLeod and Fogle showed up. The other ones, like, they were kind of ghosts as well. I know Holloway, I think he had 2 good games, but it just feels like if those guys aren't able to get a goal one game, you know someone else is kind of chipping in a different way, and you're not just waiting for a special moment short-handed to come up, you know what I mean? And Stuart Skinner, I think one storyline as well that people seem to forget is his save percentage was better than Bobrovsky in the final last year.
Crazy.
Ultimately, and I'm with you all when you would probably think this, wins are what matter the most, and Bobrovsky got 4, Skinner got 3.
And Bobrovsky in the wins was full marks. Think about game 7, think about game 1.
Yeah.
That Stanley Cup final was bookended by Sergei Bobrovsky stealing 2 hockey games.
100%. So for me, yeah, that's going to be the big difference, like you said, is the offense and like the players that didn't show up. Like Draisaitl, again, I'm just looking right now, finished with 3 assists.
Yep.
There's no way that happens again this year. No, it can't.
No way.
And even McDavid, like you go back and look, and he had 11 points in 7 games. That was outstanding, obviously, but I just don't think he has another level to give as well inside of like not just those final 3 or 4 games that they really pushed it because they had no choice to. I do think this series will still be obviously really close. It's the Stanley Cup final, but I just think when you go back and look, so much went wrong for the Oilers last year in the final in comparison to what went right for Florida, I guess you could say.
Yeah, totally. They fought through a lot of shit, man. And I know game 1 was like obviously so heartbreaking for that Oilers team. And you talk to people even in the organization who look back at that and are like, that's where we actually felt in danger. It wasn't like going down 3-0 sucked, but in that first game when they felt like they hit the Panthers, that was the Oilers dominated that game. They were so good. That was a damn near perfect Oilers effort. And I think even that team had a bit of a feeling that like, shit, we had to take one early from them, and we just hit them with our best punch, and they didn't move. They won the game.
Well, I think we talked about it the other day too for that game 1. So I went back and looked. The shots were 32-17. The Oilers allowed a power play goal for the first time in however long that run was. And also, too, it was either 0-0 at the time or 1-0. It was still very early in the game. The Oilers hit the post after going 5-hole at Bobrovsky. And like the weirdest post I've maybe ever seen.
It just wasn't meant to be,
the
really.
angle. And it just like nothing seemed to go right for them too much. So I would agree. I think that game 1 was like really the big difference. And even too, like in game 3, I remember being there, and I'm sure you were there as well, but like that was a close game. And then all of a sudden the Oilers just stopped playing hockey. And right at the end of that game, I'm sure it was Ryan McLeod just got absolutely robbed by Bobrovsky.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, they probably deserve to win that game too, and based off like the overall performance. But again, they collapsed for 5-6 minutes, whatever it ended up being, similar to what the Dallas game was, I suppose. And I just don't think that's the team anymore. Like, just looking at Warren Fogle finished second in points in the finals for the Oilers with 5.
That's crazy.
Well, that's crazy. Like, he had more than Hyman.
Can you get it sorted by goals?
By goals. So there you go. McDavid and McLeod led the team with 3 each. Henrique, Hyman, Janmark, Nurse, Fogle, and Holloway all had 2.
And I mean, they had an 8-1 win mixed in there too, which
that's
skewed
true.
a lot of those guys'
I think McLeod
numbers.
had 2 in
I
that
think
game.
he had 2. I think Fogle had 1.
Yeah. And then like guys with no goals, Kane, obviously, Sam Carrick, remember him?
He played a cup final game.
He played 1. He played
Lord,
1. He
I
got
don't remember
12
that.
penalty minutes, and he played 7 minutes and 31 seconds. That's the thing. Like, no one's showing up playing 7 minutes anymore.
We had Sam Carrick play a Stanley Cup playoff game last
And
year.
Derek Ryan. Yeah.
Ryan played 5.
Right? Ryan played 5.
That's crazy. Oh, yeah.
Vinny got into a game. Like, yeah, it's just hard to see. And I don't mean to like talk so much smack about the team from last year. They were obviously great in their own chances too. And again, like if they were healthy, they might have won. But like, you're not trying out a Sam Carrick or
I love
Connor
Aaron
Brown.
just flipping through the hockey reference live for people, like highlighting random shit that wasn't good.
There's so much. But you're not putting out a Derek Ryan or a Sam Carrick anymore. Like, guys coming out of the lineup, it's like, oh, who are we going to put in? Jeff Skinner or Victor Arvidsson?
It's crazy.
You know, like today, like we're going to talk about it. Like Connor Brown's going to be in the lineup. Jeff Skinner's coming out. We all know what's going to happen.
Yep.
And it sucks for Jeff Skinner because he scored a goal last game, but it's also like a huge positive.
Totally. I like this comment we got in here, and we'll give it a one big take from the YouTube chat where Streeter Schaefer is in and says, I think they actually might have another sneaky level hiding. This year, they actually know how much they've needed to bring to make it to Game 7. I feel like some guys have been saving an extra gear. How many times have we seen McDavid go video game mode this year? I mean, one of the examples would be in Game 1, where in the Game 1 against LA, we're in the third period.
Yeah.
He was like, we're in trouble. I got this.
Mm-hmm.
Powered them to a tie. Ultimately, they lost. I know. But even go back to last game where like Connor McDavid, and you can even say twice, because at the end of Game 3 against Dallas, or Game 4, whichever one, where he scored the late goal in the second period.
Game 3, yeah.
Yeah. That Game 5, both of those were moments where it's like the Oilers are starting to lose their handle on this hockey game, and boom, Connor McDavid scores. And boom, Connor McDavid scores. And both of those restore a 2-goal lead, totally change the complexion of the hockey game. Like, it's so hard to win in the Stanley Cup playoffs
100%.
that like I have a really hard time sitting here and saying like guys are saving anything, because I really think the Oilers, this is Captain Obvious statement of the year, they're going balls out every night.
Yes.
The idea, but I do think there's a little bit of like, you know, is Connor McDavid shooting as many pucks as you'd think he will in this cup final? He's still shooting a lot actually compared to everyone else, but like he hasn't really been in that goal scorer mindset yet. Is that something that flips for 97? What about Leon Draisaitl? Do we see him start to power more pucks? Like, you know, West Side Shane, Connor McDavid can change the game on a dime. He absolutely can, and we've seen that. So while it hasn't been the vintage Connor McDavid 4-point night, 2 points on the power play, look how good they are, all this stuff, there is the element of like he's flipped that switch in very, very key moments so far.
I think one other thing too to look at for a positive for Edmonton is seeing the gap they had between Vegas and Dallas, and then the jump they had. I know the Game 1 didn't go well, obviously. The jump those star players had at the start of that game, like that Game 1, the opening few shifts, I guess.
Oilers.
Leon Draisaitl might have looked the best we have seen him, and then he just kept going,
like ever.
Yeah. And now all of a sudden you have another week off, and it's like, well, it kind of felt like Leon was maybe still struggling at the start of the playoffs, and I think he's fine now. Don't get me wrong, but now I wonder if like, okay, you have another week. What does that do for you?
Yeah. Let's get out, Liam. It's time for our first guest of the day as we begin Cup Final week here on Oilers Nation Every Day. Louie DeBrusk's appearances are always brought to you by Litco Law. They play for Team U. They're Alberta-rooted, Edmonton proud, and when it comes to fighting for everyday folks, they don't back down ever. When insurance companies play dirty, they drop the gloves. If you've been injured and want to fight for your fair right or your right to fair compensation, Litco Law can do that for you. Stop by their office right here in town or visit them online at litcolaw.com. Lawyers you'll love. They do exist at Litco Law. As we welcome in Louie DeBrusk for his weekly appearance on the show. Louie, it is sun shining in Edmonton. The Cup Final begins in 48 hours here in Edmonton. And one thing that I do always love, and I'm so happy this series is starting in Edmonton, from like an Edmontonian perspective. I said this whole thing last year, but I'll say it again. Seeing this city get to be on display for the hockey world in June is unbelievable.
It is. You know what? You can feel it building. That's the incredible thing. You felt it last year, every series that they won and every step they took to get to the Stanley Cup Final and then building to that finale, which was an incredible series against Florida. It's doing it again this year, and you can just see it start to build with a little bit of time off between the conference finals and the final. This city's getting ready. This city's getting ready to kind of roar, and it's fantastic. They do a terrific job. The NHL takes over, but Edmonton's a terrific host. And this is a really passionate fan base here that gets behind their team. So many flags you see every single day driving down the road, people that pull you over and talk to you about what's going on with the team. And, I mean, they're all rooting for them. So they have such a great support system here with passionate fans that have waited a long time to potentially see them hoist that Stanley Cup again. And we'll see. It's going to be a great series.
There are a lot of players, I believe 7 new players on either side of this series that should be regulars or semi-regulars in the lineup. Each side has also lost some players from last year. I mean, you look at Edmonton side and the Holloway, Broberg, McLeod, Fogel, and even guys like CC and Desharnais. Florida side, though, they've lost pieces like Montour, Tarasenko, Ekman Larson, but from an Oilers perspective, with the names that are out, the names that are in, what's the biggest difference in terms of how this team's played and maybe that different complexion they'll bring and different look they'll bring to this Cup Final?
Yeah, for me, and I want to add Evander Kane into that mix as well. I mean, even though he was there for a couple games, it was, he just wasn't healthy. He wasn't 100%. He is now. So he adds a different element along with Trent Frederick, along with Vasily Podkolzin, and I think Edmonton's a bigger, stronger team. I think they're a team that's not going to get pushed around. They're going to need that against Florida. I think Florida's a team that has bolstered their lineup once again. They're bigger, they're stronger. Brad Marchand goes in there. He's the ultimate pest, the ultimate energy guy, and the ultimate intensifier of a lineup. So he's going to go in there and add that spark, and they've got guys that lead by example and drag people into the fight. So Edmonton's going to have to match that, and I think the personnel you see on the left-hand side, I think they brought in the right personnel right now. It built as the season went on. There was a lot of adversity for Edmonton this year. You really didn't know what the team was going to look like in the playoffs, if Evander Kane was going to be able to play, if Trent Frederick was going to be able to play. They suffered a ton of injuries down the stretch, but it's come together systematically each and every round. Obviously, the loss of Zach Hyman is huge. He provides more than the physicality. He's been the most physical guy in the playoffs, but he was starting to find his stride again. He was starting to put the puck in the net. He was starting to sniff around the way he does, and he's a valuable asset. It's really hard to replace. But they've got some guys, and a guy like Kasperi Kapanen, for me, who played with Zach in Toronto and actually played up the lineup from Zach, is getting an opportunity, and I think he's making good on that. He has the size, he has the speed, he's been around the league for a while. So one man goes out, another one steps in, and they've done that down the stretch and into the playoffs. Anybody that kind of gets that chance to go in seems to have success with this lineup, which is not easy to do. So it's good to see.
Sorry, I'm hogging all the questions early on here, Liam, but just coming off that point right there about the forward group, like thinking back to last year where it's like, hey, Evander Kane, they had to keep playing him even though he wasn't at 100%, that it eventually got so bad they pull him out of the lineup. And we were laughing, like looking at the players who played last year in the Cup Final. It's like Sam Carrick played a game, Derek Ryan played 5, and I don't want this to come off as like disrespectful to those two guys, but like they were coming in and playing 6 or 7 minutes in the lineup. And you look at this year where it's like, Hyman is out. Okay, Jeff Skinner or Connor Brown was out too. Jeff Skinner comes in. He scores a goal, plays meaningful minutes, plays well. Arvidsson draws back in. Trent Frederick, like they just seem to have this layer of depth that isn't just fourth line guys. Like you're not sitting there with Hyman out, crossing your fingers, going, God, this one guy needs to, Evander Kane really needs to start playing well. It's like, no, one of 6 guys could pick up that slack.
I agree. We've talked about the depth all playoffs long, all season long, and it really started to come to fruition for me when you look at down the stretch and the injuries to key players, Draisaitl, McDavid, guys that were out of the lineup, Matthias Ekholm. What happened was guys had to step up. Guys had to step up and grind down the stretch into the playoffs. And I think what that built was confidence. It built confidence in players going out and getting a little bit more. It's hard to get more on this team. Let's face it. This is a top-heavy team. So when they're rolling, they're going, or they're chasing, which they did a lot of, there's some guys on the bench that get buried, and they don't get a lot of ice time. I think Chris Knoblauch's done a great job of spreading that wealth out throughout the end of the year and into the playoffs because he knew it was going to be important against another very deep team in the Florida Panthers. My opinion, the two deepest teams. Two teams that just understand that they need to get production and good shifts and good work ethics out of every line. It has to be by committee. Edmonton, I would say, has a little bit of the edge in skill, in my opinion, but I think that the work ethic and down the lineup, the grittiness is pretty even. Florida's proven they're one of the toughest teams to play against in the league for the last 3 years getting to the final. So Edmonton had to elevate that. And I think to a man they have each and every series. They've gone up against some big, heavy teams already when you look at it. I mean, the Vegas Golden Knights, not an easy team to get by, not an easy team to get to the front of the net, not an easy team to protect the front of the net. They did a fine job there and finished them off in 5 games. LA, best version we've seen of them in 4 years, in my opinion, in the playoffs, that they beat them in the first round. And then the Dallas Stars are a team that, although I don't think they were firing on all cylinders, I think you have to credit Edmonton with, creating a little bit of that chaos and a little bit of that uncertainty in their lineup. They can push, and they held on when they needed to, got the saves when they needed to. So I look at the road they've taken to get here, along with the Florida Panthers, and we know what they've done systematically in their series with Tampa Bay, Winnipeg, and then Carolina. 3 different teams in that regard. But I think Edmonton's had the harder go. I think Edmonton's had the harder go to get to the final, and I think that's going to harden them in this final series against Florida because they're ready for them. They understand the task at hand. They lost last year in 7. They've got that chip on their shoulder, and they're carrying that into the last series.
I wanted to ask you about Leon Draisaitl. Last year in the finals, didn't get a goal, or assuming he was pretty banged up. Though there's not many things that can stop Draisaitl from scoring. And now I think too, like if you look at the gap between, he was good in the Vegas series, don't get me wrong, but the gap between Vegas and Dallas, I think, was so big, and he just seems to be getting better and better. And now he has another week off to continue to assumedly get healthy from whatever was hindering him at the start of the playoffs as well. I feel like he's going to be the reason why Edmonton could win this series.
I kind of feel the same, Liam. I look at it and I look at the 4-2 goal, the goal by McDavid. That was just another level. It was another level that he got to. It was one opportunity. He's been very patient waiting for his opportunities. He hasn't really had to just go out and try and dominate. And I say that in a positive way. I say that in the sense that this team has learned how to close out, how to stay patient. When they do get in trouble is typically when they try and do too much. And when they stay in the crunch and they stay in the tension of the game, they're a difficult team to play against. But not only that, they can counter on you. They can counter and score goals. So I think that's the game plan again against Florida. You have to defend first. Defense has to be on your mind. But at the same time, you have to push. You have to push and you have to make them defend more than they want to, which is not easy. You've got to outwork them. But I think the big guys, this is their series. I've been saying this building up through these playoffs. We've talked about the depth. And don't get me wrong. I mean, McDavid had 9 points against Dallas. I mean, he ratcheted it up. He started to put the puck in the net, scored that beautiful goal. He's systematically, in my opinion, starting to get better series to series. I would say the same thing for Leon Draisaitl. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had a terrific conference final. You're starting to see guys come together, find that confidence, and really roll. But if Edmonton wants to beat the Florida Panthers, their best players have to be their best players. Simple as that. And they have to be better than the best players of the Florida Panthers. That goes without saying. I mean, everybody has to do their part to a man, but there's a reason why you have the number 1 and 2 guys in points in the last 10 years in the National Hockey League. They've been pacing everybody. This is their second chance in the Stanley Cup Final. They're going to be ready.
Yeah, I mean, you even look back to Game 7 last year, and it was like, Skinner and Bobrovsky, both good. The special teams kind of sawed off. The depth, each scored a goal, but it was Sam Reinhart scoring 1, and the Oilers' big guns, and that flurry at the end couldn't find the back of the net. And man, if you don't think that's been haunting Connor McDavid for 11 and a half months now, I mean, that that's been top of mind. Like, I think we're going to see Connor McDavid, which is it sounds so stupid to say because he's averaging like 1.75 points per game in the
I know.
playoffs. But like, we might see another level.
Well, I think so. I think every player to a man hopes they have a little bit more and another level to get to. You're playing in the Stanley Cup Final. There's only 7 games maximum left in the season, so there's not a whole lot to save it for here. You can leave it out there. The time in between games for me, too, is critical. You can really, really push. And the 2 days in between most of the games, 2 days in between, I believe 2 and 3 in Florida, and then 1 day in between 4 and 5 coming back for the Saturday night game in Edmonton. I just think that lines up for leave it on the ice each and every night. And I know for a fact that's what both teams are thinking. They're thinking to themselves, there's nothing to save it for here. Yes, you have to be disciplined. Yes, you have to make sure you're on the right side of the penalty called situation in the final. Make sure that discipline is there, but at the same time, you've got to play to your absolute max every time you're on the ice. And they will. I think both teams will. I think they don't get here by fluke. I think they knew they were going to see each other. I know there was some discussions or something was said from Matthew Tkachuk at the end of last year in the handshake. We'll see you next year. And lo and behold, they're seeing each other again. When you're facing a real formidable opponent. And I think both of these teams have a ton of respect for one another. But they also look across and understand that if they don't do their part, they're not going to win the series. Simple as that. And I think both teams feel that way. Very close. You mentioned it, Ty. 47-42 in these playoffs in favor of the Florida Panthers in 5-on-5 goals. And that, to me, is where this series will be won. You have to take care of business 5-on-5. Florida and Edmonton are 1-2 in the playoffs. The next one in line is the Toronto Maple Leafs at 27. That's a big drop. I mean, both of these teams have gotten production down their lineup, have gotten, every single forward that's dressed for the Edmonton Oilers has scored a goal, right? And with the exception of 4 defensemen, 2 that have played 1 game, and Brown and Ekholm haven't scored a goal. Stetcher and Emerson in the Oilers. So, I mean, you're getting that production down your line. Everybody's pulling on that rope. And the same for the Florida Panthers, one of the deepest teams in the playoffs, again, from production. They've got production down their lineup. So, this is going to be a war of attrition. This is going to be a situation for me where you're looking across each and every shift, not each and every game, each and every shift. You're looking across saying, I have to be better than that guy that I'm facing off against.
I wanted to quickly hit on the blue line. You mentioned Matthias Ekholm. He got into a game. I love that. A chance for him to shake off the rust, and now Cup Final should be ready to go. Yeah. But they went and they mixed up a lot of the pairings that were kind of working, which I understand they had to do, but it was Ekholm, Bouchard, Nurse, Kulak, and then Wallman, Klingberg stayed as the constant on the third pairing. I guess two-parter, what did you make of Ekholm, and is this the best way you think to dice up this 6 group of defensemen in terms of the pairings?
Yeah, there's been a lot of shuffling back there, hasn't there? Paul Coffey doesn't like to sit on his hands too long on that bench. He likes to keep the guys fresh. He likes to keep them thinking. And you know what? I think it's created for me guys that are comfortable in that mix. Guys that have to play the right side, no problem. I'm back on the left-hand side like a guy like Brett Kulak. You want me to jump up and play more minutes? No problem. You want me to step back down, play more of a defensive role? I can do that too. It's a real nice mix. And with Matthias coming back, he's the kind of defenseman, and the 6 that were in there were playing great. Trey Stetcher, just a terrific job to step in. And not easy to do. Not easy to do in the Stanley Cup playoffs to step in and be that efficient and battle the way he did. But credit to him. Ty Emberson, when he was in there, he battled too for the minutes that he got. I mean, these guys are pushing. But when Matthias Ekholm is available and he's ready to come back, and it's good to see that he was healthy. He tried it a couple times in the regular season to come back, and it just didn't take. And it was really tough to see him have to leave a game against Dallas after a couple shifts and never see the ice again until we saw him in Game 5 against the Dallas Stars again in the playoffs. So it's been a long time coming. When a player of that ilk is ready to come back in the lineup, you chuck him in the lineup. You don't say, well, we'll see a good time to get him back in there. No, you put him in there. He played over 15 minutes. I thought he played great. Yeah, there was a couple little things here and there, but he's such a competitor. He's a Viking. I just love that guy. He gets out there and he battles every single shift. He's been one of my favorite defenders in the league for a long time when he was with Nashville. I used to call him the mean Swede, and he made it really tough on opponents in front of his net. 6'4", 215, 220. He's not afraid to give you the stick every once in a while, and he just bolsters that back end. So I think guys slide into where Paul Coffey thinks they should be, and the mix worked. You know what? You look at it, he can always shuffle whenever he needs to. Power plays, penalty kills, when that disrupts the motion. Because they played together so much and they've mixed and matched so much during the season, I honestly think it makes it easier in those types of situations. A guy gets a penalty, guys in the penalty box, power play long, extended shift on the penalty kill. He can just mix and match and throw guys on the ice, and it's automatic. It's like, no problem, we can go. I do believe in pairs. I do believe in chemistry. But at the same time, sometimes you got to think outside the box, and we'll see if these pairings can stay together for the rest of this series anyway. I wouldn't bet on it, but if it does, that means things are going well.
Mm-hmm. We were talking about this late last week after the Dallas series. Who do you think the best opponent is that the Oilers have faced so far out of LA, Vegas, and Dallas?
It's a good question. You know, as soon as you said that, Liam, right away I went to Vegas. I don't know why, but I really think that Vegas they've had the mental edge on LA now for 4 years. They had it on 3. Don't get me wrong, that's the best version we've seen of the Los Angeles Kings. I thought they were really good. And I thought they had opportunities, and they squandered those opportunities to really drive it home against Edmonton. Credit Edmonton for resiliency, finding a way to win that series, come back, and once they lost the first 2, they never looked back, and they got better as the series went on, and they got better in the second round against a real tough opponent in the Vegas Golden Knights. I would say the Vegas series for 2 reasons. They're big, they're strong, and there's no question that the identity of the Vegas Golden Knights is defense first. They're a defensively structured team, and they don't cheat on that. They really don't. They make you work for everything. So I think from an Edmonton perspective, when you look at how...
No.
Did we lose him?
We might have lost him.
Oh, no.
I
Louie.
had someone, my buddy Warren calling in.
Ah, Warren.
Classic Warren. Anyways, I'll let you finish your thought there on
Perfect timing, Warren, for calling me right now. Anyway, I think Vegas. I'll get back. I'll say it's Vegas. And I think because, number one, the mental aspect of it, that they beat them. They beat them in 23 when they won the Stanley Cup. And they didn't really dig into that series. They had a chip on their shoulder. They came out and they beat a team that had beaten them before. Dallas Stars, they beat 2 years in a row. And the Los Angeles Kings, they've beaten 4 years in a row. So the Vegas one for me, not just the fact that it was a harder series matchup-wise, but also mentally they had to overcome that hurdle in preparation for another team they're going to face here that's beat them in the Stanley Cup Final. And this is the next big step, right? This is the next big step for this team to say, okay, you guys got us last year. It's our turn this year. And they have to go out there with the mentality that they're going to be the better team, and they're going to literally rip this out of the Florida Panthers' hands, because that's what they're going to have to do.
All right, last thing I wanted to bring up with you, there was a little viral moment that came out of Game 5 of the Oilers and Stars series from the ESPN broadcast where, I mean, Jake Ottinger got pulled. Ray Ferraro between the benches, Louis, had to keep giving analysis about why Ottinger got pulled while he's sitting right there. And I just thought if anyone could relate to what Ray was going through here, it's obvious.
You know what's funny is that it really is. I'll tell you, the first couple times you're down there, and I remember, I'll give you an example. I did a game in Colorado. It was when I was doing the Hockey Night games, the second games, and it was more, I was traveling around doing a lot of those games. And it was actually Troy Stetcher. So the very first, I'll give you this, the very first one I did between the benches, Vancouver versus Washington, and I had to talk about Jake Virtanen. He's literally right here watching me as I'm talking about him and the fact that he's got to get going here, and they're expecting a lot from him this year. And it's a little weird, you know, when you're talking about someone that close to. But Troy Stetcher comes off. I think he had a turnover in the defensive zone. And in Colorado, I'm not kidding you, the bench was this wide. Like the space between the benches where I had, and there was no glass between me and the Vancouver bench. So the defensemen were at that end, and he was like sitting right beside me. Literally, our shoulders were touching. And I got to talk about the turnover he just had. And I kind of looked at him, and he gave me a look like this, and he just kind of gave that perfect. It was like, you know what? The guys know. The guys know better than anybody. When you make a mistake or it's a tough situation, Jake Ottinger, I thought he handled that like a pro in his press conference the next day or 2 days later when he did finally address the media. He handled like a pro. It was a tough situation. In a game where you're eliminated, the feelings and the emotions are high. But you know what, Ray, I can attest to it. Sometimes it's a little difficult when you got to talk about guys and they're right beside you, but they're all professionals. They understand it. And I've always said this: if you're willing to say something, be willing to say it right to their face. And if you keep that standard, you're not going to have a problem.
Louie, enjoy the Cup Final. Next week, we'll be chatting with you. It'll be right in between games 2 and 3. No, it might be game day of game 3.
Yeah.
And we'll be down in Florida, we'll chat with you.
We're going to try and set up an in-studio hit. this next
Oh
week?
yeah.
You said you wanted.
Well, next
Yeah.
week they're in Florida. So unless
Oh,
you're
you
coming
guys
to
are going to
Florida, too.
Florida. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when you guys get back, we'll figure it out. We'll
Okay.
definitely. I'll come in the studio with you guys, and we'll have a good jam session.
All right,
All right.
sounds
Be
good. See you, Louie.
unreal.
Thanks for doing this.
Okay, boys. Have fun down in Florida.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
See
you.
you
All right.
later.
Louie DeBrusk, brought to you by Litco Law, also brought to you by our friends at Tourism Jasper. This summer, find your happy place in Jasper. Drive over, play outside, soak up the fresh air, enjoy some delicious food and drink, and maybe even stay up late because your best summer memories aren't behind you. They're waiting for you this summer in Jasper. Plan your trip at jasper.travel/summer. If Louie says it on the air, it's legally binding.
Yeah.
Litco Law told me that. So we got to do it in studio hit with Louie now before the
Yeah.
end of the year.
Let's not understate what that man just said to it.
Yeah.
This is huge.
Basically, just act. I know our guests are all contractually obligated to be our friends,
But I think we are actually friends with Louie DeBrusk.
yeah, I'll give that a thumbs up. He's probably not listening anymore either because he had to call back his friend Warren.
Fogel, he's probably looking
Fogels,
for a
yeah.
round of golf right now.
No, Fogel's probably calling around being like, who the hell gave me a Selke vote? Can
Someone give him a Selke vote?
Bro, Fogel and
What?
Holloway both got Selke
No
votes.
way. That is bong. And McDavid didn't get one, did he?
McDavid didn't get a single Selke vote.
Selke.
I think
Damn.
it was CJ had all of the voting up. But yeah, I mean, I think Warren Fogel finished higher on the voting than Sidney Crosby. And when you
Wow.
think defensive players,
I always think,
dude, that's
Fogel,
criminal.
Holloway. Where is
Fogel got 2 votes, and
Jesus.
Fogel and Holloway each got 2 votes. Fucking Sidney Crosby only got 1. Nathan McKinnon getting Selke votes ahead of Connor McDavid is insanity.
he? Yeah, that one's bomb. Dennis, you don't have to vote for Fogel.
Oh, you think it was our boy D Bernstein? I bet you he's in town. We didn't put him on our list of friends who
No.
are in town.
We'll see him around though.
Yeah, we'll see Dennis around.
Yeah.
Get
Who else you got on that list?
I mean, I don't want to tease anybody.
Well,
It's a
there's
good
few
list.
people.
A lot of in-studio hopefuls.
The line has been thrown out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My audio might have cut out there. My headpiece came out, so
I could hear you the whole
apologies.
time.
Oh, maybe I just couldn't hear myself. I'm good now.
Leon Draisaitl got 1 first-place vote, yes.
Yeah, and
Makes sense.
the Selke's a tough one.
Selke's
And you
weird,
said something
yeah.
earlier in the year, and it really swayed my thing. If there isn't a conversation about it, then the Barkov just wins.
Yep.
Like Bergeron.
Yep.
Great. And Kopitar, don't get me wrong, but like, eventually if it's not like, wow, look at how well player A is doing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, Bergeron will just win this year.
One guy that I thought was criminally low on that list was Joel Eriksson Ek.
Yeah,
he was like
maybe-
25th. He missed a lot of time,
Yeah.
which probably hurts him. But I was just like, man, like of all the players who were in the middle or bottom, I'm like, Joel Eriksson Ek is like very clearly an elite defensive forward. I didn't understand Eriksson Ek being as low as he was.
There's also another thing for me too, and like maybe you can call me out on this, but like if your team doesn't make the playoffs, like I'm looking at Vincent Trocheck,
But it's
for
such
example.
an individual award.
Totally, but like, should you finish higher than a Mark Stone? You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
just feel like if the one team wins a division and is like defensively dominant, like Vegas are, and like clearly Florida, I finished 1 and 2 in voting with Barkov and Reinhardt. Like, shouldn't other guys be like significantly lower? I don't know. Maybe that's just overselling it. Also, shout out Logan O'Connor, who also got more votes than Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're out there if you were protecting a 1-goal lead with your life on the line, you go Sidney Crosby,
Sit
or what's
down.
the old thing? I want Iguodala.
Oh, yeah.
If aliens are about to take over the earth, who do you want out there protecting a 1-goal lead? Connor McDavid or Sidney Crosby? And then someone just goes, "Give me Iguodala, give me O'Connor, give me Logan O'Connor."
There's some wild names, other wild names too, like Ilya Mikheyev.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
come on,
like,
how is anyone on the Chicago Blackhawks getting a Selke vote? Like,
dude,
what are we
4
doing?
Florida Panthers forwards got Selke votes. I'm like, hey, the
Yeah.
best defensive players in the NHL can't just all be in Florida.
No defenseman, right? This is just forward. Oh, Selke's just forward. What's the one that's?
I do think.
Is
Listen,
it just forward?
yeah, it's just forward.
What's the
Best
one?
defensive
Oh,
forward.
Lady Bing.
Lady
that's the
Bing's
one I'm
best
thinking.
sportsman, most
Yeah.
sportsmanlike. Yeah. All right, let's continue along with today's edition of the show. Let's do a little lineup report for our friends over at Budweiser. Budweiser is making sure that City of Champions spirit that we know and love as Edmontonians They're making sure it's alive and well. They're making sure everybody else knows about it. Budweiser's been brewed in Edmonton for 45 years, and by partnering with Mark Messier, they are proud to set out and reignite that City of Champions spirit. They even brought one of the original City of Champions signs into the brewery while brewing this special beer. It comes with their iconic Budweiser word mark, spelling out Edmonton on the can, and a ton of other Easter eggs that we discussed with our friend Mark Messier when we had him on the show a few weeks ago. Shout out to our friends at Budweiser. I can't wait to see Mark Messier potentially in person at this Cup final. I'm like, hey, look, like Moose.
Oh, yeah. We saw him last year. He just didn't know us.
He didn't know us.
Yeah, but now with that.
And I've had him on the show.
We have a story about it, too. Because of obviously there was a slight delay of trying to get on. There's no way he doesn't remember.
There's no way.
No way.
He's got to be like, that's the Oilers Nation.
And now we can hang out with our friend Grant Fuhr and ask him about the sun.
The sun. Hey, well, if we see Grant, we'll just bring him into a nice shaded spot.
Yes.
Grant, get your sunscreen on. All right. I totally lost my train. Oh, lineup report. Chris Knobloch confirming earlier today that Connor Brown is going to play game one. It's a definite Connor Brown is playing game one. So that's obviously big. Connor Brown himself, according to Tony Brar, saying he'll be ready for the first game of the Stanley Cup Final. So let me ask you, Liam, is it really as simple as, sorry, Jeff Skinner, you had a great game, we're pulling you out, or is there someone else you'd like to see pulled?
I would say that's like 70% chance that's what happens. I don't think it's a full guarantee. Is there any chance you think that Arvidsson's the guy that comes out? Just because they're both playing on the right side. That's kind of like my only argument for it. I think Arvidsson actually played really, really well last game. Probably better than Skinner too, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, Arvidsson's been fine since coming back.
I just wonder if that is what it is. But we need to kind of get down to the nitty gritty. Arvidsson's going to give you more of that than Skinner. Although I do think Skinner's like heart and hustle, let's label it as, is like a little underrated. Like he's not afraid to throw a hit. He's just like he's not that guy.
And for a guy who everyone is like, sniper, he gets a lot of his goals by going to the blue paint.
Well, look at the one he scored.
Bingo.
Like,
ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. I remember the first goal he scored for the Oilers. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, it was like right in. Was it against Calgary?
Yeah.
Jinx.
There you go. Jinx. Owe me a soda. McDavid shoots the puck. Whoever shot the puck from the blue line comes off the pad. Skinner's right there. Loops behind the net. Scoops it in. I would love to see Jeff Skinner get into a home playoff game.
That'd be cool.
I'm going to ask him about that tomorrow.
Yeah, like
a chance.
You know, could you imagine? Yeah, I think that's a good one. What else do you want to talk to guys about at Media Day tomorrow? Which is maybe a good time to tell people. So we are obviously credentialed for the Stanley Cup Final NHL event. Let's go. So we're going to be able to go down to Media Day tomorrow. Like we did last year, we're going to be able to interview a bunch of guys. The way it kind of works, for those of you who don't know, is the Oilers will practice, and then there'll be like an opening press conference with Chris Knobloch. And then after that... And Bowman. And then after that, basically they'll set up a room. Like imagine it being this big room we're in at Shirt Power Sports and Marine. We're just outside on the perimeter. There's like 12 to 15 booths. And the Oilers will do two different waves. So like 12 to 15 players will come out the first time. 12 to 15 players will come out the second time. And you basically just walk up, plug in your microphone, and you chat with whoever you want to. So I do think there's going to be a lot more media there this year than last year because it's in Edmonton, not in Sunrise, Florida. But you basically just get to go interview whoever you want. I wrote a story last year on what turned around the season for the Oilers. It's honestly one of my favorite things that I've ever written because the way it unearthed how things worked in that room, and Matthias Janmark of all people being someone who stood up and said, like, I was with Vegas the year we turned it around. I know it's in this group. And it was Matthias Janmark who gave a big rah-rah speech way back American Thanksgiving as they were playing Washington, and that turned around the season. But I really want to chat with another guy, Kasperi Kapanen. I think him coming in and not just getting into the lineup and like, hey, you're playing games, congrats. It's like, oh, you were healthy scratched, and now you're playing with Leon Draisaitl, and you're out there protecting a 1-goal lead and all of that stuff. I'm really excited to chat with Kapanen tomorrow.
That'd be a good one. I'm going to try and get a conversation with Brad Marchand and Trent Frederick. Not together, obviously, but just like get the angle of like,
two former teammates,
like in a way, like I'm trying to figure out how to word it, but like, are you surprised you're here considering like where the Bruins season was going and all of a sudden you're in the Cup Final? I think that'd be a really good angle of it too. And yeah, I don't know. Is sometimes guys just open up. Like I wonder if they'll, because it's going to be in the downtown rink. That's where they're doing it. So that's a way bigger space than what Florida had last year, which was like basically a concession area.
So cramped. Where are they?
I wonder if they'll just do everyone. Like I wonder if just like
no, they'll do waves because people would complain if they couldn't get
Leon.
I wonder if they don't do it. No, whatever. We don't need to speculate on it. But anyways, tomorrow so this is a very long-winded way of me saying this. We won't be able to do our show at a regular time because the Oilers time slot is from, I believe, 12 to 1-ish.
12 to, yeah, something like that.
So our plan, if all can go well, is we're going to get down there, set up our show from the arena, go do media day for the Oilers, then we'll be able to come back, hopefully give you guys like a real nice 30, 45-minute show, maybe push it to an hour if we can get a guest, and then we're going to head down and do Florida Panthers media avails. So we're going to do our absolute best to give you guys a true live show tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Worst case scenario is I think we would probably do like an early evening show and maybe do one at like 4 if like the day totally gets away from us. But you'll get a show tomorrow. Podcast listeners, you'll get a podcast tomorrow. We are hoping for 1 o'clock. Might have to be later.
Let's hope so. It'll be great. We'll be at the rink. We'll do it from Rogers Place. We'll do another one from Rogers Place sometime this week too, I would think. Yeah. And then like we said, we go on the road next week to Florida.
But we'll fly Sunday.
Yeah, so we actually won't miss a show. We'll miss Friday.
We'll miss after Game 4.
Going on the road. Doing that. But maybe we can...
But again, like maybe we get someone else to host our show and we can pop on for 20 minutes because
that'd be a good idea.
We leave at 1 o'clock.
Should we get Colby to do it, guys?
We fly out next Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern. Oh, that's so shitty for the sake of our show because that means we have to be at the airport by 10 a.m. Mountain. So unless we do a morning show at like,
we fly out earlier than 1. No,
unless you booked the wrong flight.
I don't know. I couldn't do it. Almo did it for me. Shout out Almo. If you're listening, Almo, you might be. See if you can find someone to host our show next Friday.
Well, we'll figure it out. All right, we're going to be joined by Steve Peters in a little bit. But first, I want to do a little betting talk, actually, Liam, for our friends over at Bet365, an official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And whether it's game props, money line, player props, or even some futures bets, and they have a lot of good ones here for this upcoming series. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. There is a player who I am targeting with my money, Liam. I am backing Corey Perry heavily in this Stanley Cup Final. So he has scored at least 2 goals in every single series so far for the Edmonton Oilers. You can go back to against Dallas. He actually finished with 3 goals. He had 2 against Dallas. He had 3 against Vegas. And then he had 2 against the LA Kings. Corey Perry to score over 1.5 goals, 2+ goals on Bet365 is -120. But if you juice it up, Corey Perry to score 3+ goals is +210. No Zach Hyman to take away any power play minutes. No Zach Hyman to take away his spot on the top line this series. Corey Perry's going to be playing a ton with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. He's going to be the net front guy on a lot of power plays. Corey Perry, 3+ goals, +210, I think is a very, very good spot.
I like that one, but I have one that's better.
Okay.
And easier to hit.
Oh?
Really only goes on the ice for empty netters. Kasperi Kapanen is +600 to get 2 or more goals in this series.
So over 1.5.
Yes. So my idea around it is that they clearly outplayed him out there for empty net goals. That's how he got his 2 goals against Dallas. He plays next to Draisaitl. He might be able to squeak one in like he did against Vegas. Like he has shown up when the guys kind of need him the most, and he's shown like to be trustworthy. So I think 600 for a guy who's in those moments, it's good value.
Yeah.
It's good value. I'd love to bet on Evander Kane again, but I just can't. My heart can't come around to it.
Corey Perry, by the way, people were asking in the chat, did he play every game in the Cup Final last year? He was healthy scratched game 1, I believe, on the 6th. But he played the final 6 games and had 2 points, 1 goal.
You remember the goal?
It was that McDavid absolute just jaw-dropper beauty in game 5. That was crazy.
No one remembers that as his goal, but he's the one who scored it. Also, I think wasn't it Nurse on the bench being like, "Go Bears, go," something like that.
Because he just came off the bench, I think, right? And it was like, go.
Yeah, and then he was able to do it.
Once again, we are live at Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. They have their 2025 Yamaha Demo Tour coming to the dealership this Friday, June 6th, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., 371 Lakeland Drive. You can get a look at the beautiful bikes that are behind us. This one has like gold on it, Liam. Surely that means it's the fanciest.
All Stanley Cup gold.
And it's like that carbon fibery kind of look too with the blue trim. Some very, very sharp bikes. This one behind me here, it's the 2024 Yamaha MT10.
Wow.
Starting at $125 bi-weekly with $0 down on a 120-month term.
There you go.
Good value, courtesy of our friends at Sherwood Ford, the Giant. Speaking of Sherwood Power Sports and Marine.
Wait a minute.
Sherwood Power Sports and Marine. Speaking of Sherwood Ford, the Giant, I asked Frank this question. Aaron, if you could flash up the board that we have, that is all the new players in this series. So there's 14 of them. You can combine the Oilers and Panthers, rank the 3 new players who will play the biggest role in this series.
Rank the 3 from both sides.
Yep.
Just the new guys. Okay. So from Florida, I think is obvious. Actually, Seth Jones will play the biggest role for Florida. Brad Marchand. And then I will say...
I mean, isn't it kind of easily Nate Schmidt? Like the other guys are fourth liners.
I know. I just wonder if Tommy Nosek. What do they call him? Tommy Vetchkin?
No, you're thinking of that's Thomas Nosek. You're thinking of Tommy Novak. That's Novechkin.
Different. Okay,
different
guy.
Yeah,
it's Nate Schmidt. So it's the top 3 there. For the Oilers, it's Wallman, Klingberg, Podkolzin. I think is the 3 I would have.
Wallman, then Klingberg, then Podkolzin.
Yeah, I just think Podkolzin is so consistent, and you just know what you're going to get from him. Like his game doesn't really elevate, doesn't really drop. He's just there.
Yeah,
and that's not a bad thing. But with Klingberg and Wallman, like Klingberg, like it didn't result in a goal, but that move he made in game 1 of Dallas, where he just like toe dragged around the guy and pushed it to the back post, like if he's able to like do that, like there's not many players in this series, defensive wise, who are capable of just like kind of pulling out that piece of offense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like the level he could get to, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Tyler Mulick says Seth Jones is getting torched by McDry. I won't disagree with you on that other side where it definitely goes Jones, then Marchand, then Schmidt. On the Oilers side, I do think it's Wallman 1. We're going to talk about it with Steve Peters in a bit, but this Oilers blue line and their ability to crisply move the puck up the ice, I think is just going to be an absolute game changer. I would have Podkolzin 2 if there was ever a time for this guy to find his scoring touch, Liam, and it were to come in this cup final. The idea of him having 2 or 3 goals in this series, he plays every 5-on-5 minute with Leon Draisaitl. The idea of him just getting hot, being at the right place, ripping up a couple shots past his countryman Sergei Bobrovsky, like it's not crazy to think he gets so many good looks and he just does not shoot the puck. Vasily, if you're watching, maybe I'll bring it up to him immediately. I'll be like, hey, Vasily, listen, shoot the puck. If he shoots the puck and he gets hot, he has the ability to totally change the series. Whereas Klingberg definitely can do that as well. And I'm not trying to discount his role on this team. But like if Klingberg struggles through 2 games, you just put Troy Stetcher back in. And I guess you could say, with Podkolzin, like if he's not scoring, if he's struggling, then just, they have Kane up there, elevate Kapanen, elevate this guy, elevate that guy, whatever you end up doing for your line combinations. Because I do know, again, there is a chance that Podkolzin is starting with Janmark and Arvidsson like he finished the last series. But I think there's a world where Vasily Podkolzin gets hot. I just have so much belief in the player, even though through 70-some regular season games that he played and then all the playoff games he's played, 16 of them, he hasn't shown us a flash of offense really at all.
He has streaks of 2 or 3 games, doesn't he?
What if he's due?
Hey,
horrible logic.
Talking about the start of the show of guys who, hey, maybe there is another level. How many shots do you think Podkolzin has in the playoffs?
God, 8?
10.
Yeah.
He did not have a point against Dallas.
Yeah.
Which also says a lot to. He's such an interesting player.
He is.
If he can figure out how to shoot the puck correctly over the summer with his accuracy and all that good stuff, man, he's 23. Like it's nuts to think what this player could be for the Oilers next season at $1 million. Like it really is crazy. Like you don't even. What do you finish with 8 goals? You can get 15. If he could double his production next season, it's crazy. It's value. Unbelievable. But yeah, we'll see. Seth Jones, he's just such an interesting player for me. Maybe it's an idea as well. Like teams should look at next season or in the future, I guess, of a guy who's just trapped in a bad spot.
Yeah.
To get him out of there.
All right, let's get to our guest line, Star Mechanical Guest Line. It's Edmonton's #1 plumbing and heating company. You can find out more about what gives them that moniker and that title by visiting them at starmechanical.ca. They've been in the Edmonton area for more than 20 years. They're one of Edmonton's largest locally owned and operated companies, starmechanical.ca. This gentleman has only been on the show a couple of times, but he very quickly became one of our favorite guests, and that is Steve Peters, producer with ESPN, former video coach for the Arizona Coyotes. PD, always a pleasure to have you on. And as we sit here on a Monday, getting set and kicking off our week of Cup Final coverage, it's pretty crazy to think back to maybe even where we were when the Oilers were down 2-0 to the LA Kings and be like, man, the world where they not only get to the Cup Final, but the fact they're in the Cup Final, and it's like, you can actually chart a path to them beating the Panthers. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I go back to this. I think the big turning point, and we talked about it here, was the puck on Byfield's stick in Game 4. He clears the puck successfully out to the neutral zone, and LA goes up 3-1, heading home, and Edmonton is looking at a much different situation. Not saying they couldn't battle back, but a much different situation from where they are now. Skinner was struggling, and the team didn't look good together, but now they got their feet under them. And I think the journey to get through LA led them to be the team they are today. I think this is a much, much different Edmonton Oilers team today than through 3 rounds of a year ago. And I think last year, and I know people might not want to hear this, they were happy to be there. I thought their road last year, they had a tough road last year, and I guess they're not going to get by Dallas. They did, and that was, we go, wow, they within 2 goals of winning this whole thing. But I don't think they were supposed to. This year, they've got a new identity. It's a new team. It's a new way of playing, and they're at home for Game 1. There's so many things different for this Edmonton Oilers team going into the finals this year.
So let's break down maybe some of those key areas. Like one spot a lot of people are jumping to, especially playing against, a Florida Panthers team that's so heavy on the forecheck. This Oilers team and this blue line appears to be so much more prepared to move the puck efficiently than the blue line they put forth in the Cup Final last year.
Well, I think that's the biggest key for the Florida Panthers to generate offense, is creating turnovers off of the forecheck. And it's not just that the initial play below the goal line. They're going to be quick on pucks. Florida's quick on pucks, and they're going to be punishing on the defensemen of the Edmonton Oilers. But it's that secondary play. I think what makes Florida so good off the forecheck is how they play their F3 or their third forward into the zone, and they stay above the play. They don't rush in, and I think you get you get confused with aggressive forecheck versus smart. And Florida keeps their third forward high, and they get that turnover along the wall, about the half wall, and that's because the defense can pitch because the third forward is there. So having said all that, Florida needs to create those turnovers from the hash marks down. They have to if they're going to generate against the Edmonton Oilers. But you talk about how well these Oilers defense are moving the puck. It's exceptional. And it's one of the strengths of this team right now. And we talk about how good they are off the rush, but it's not just because McDavid and Draisaitl get through the neutral zone quickly. It's because they're getting the puck quickly, and they're getting it past 3-4 checkers on a great pass. So this, to me, for Florida to create offense, they're going to have to get stops from the hash marks down. This is a huge battle area in this game. And right now it's 50-50. Because I've seen Edmonton, especially against Vegas. Edmonton struggled on that. Edmonton gave up 5 goals against Vegas on the forecheck, where they were able to create turnovers and get pucks to the net. And Vegas doesn't forecheck like Florida does. Florida's better. So for me, that is the biggest key to the series in the defensive zone for the Edmonton Oilers. Can they beat that pressure and get the puck off of the wall and get it out to the neutral zone?
Mm-hmm. So I guess, like, in comparison to what the Oilers have played so far, you were talking just then about the difference between Vegas and Florida too, but like, what do Florida do so much better that Edmonton hasn't faced yet?
It is getting to the net and getting to the blue paint. We talk about something I thought Vegas was going to get there. I really did. And they have a deep offensive 4 lines with Vegas, but they couldn't get there. And Edmonton's done an outstanding job of protecting the area in front of Stuart Skinner. From the top of the circles down to the blue paint, they've been phenomenal at keeping teams to the outside. But they haven't faced Florida yet. They haven't had Kachuk. They haven't had Bennett. They haven't had guys, even Verhaeghe now, that can get to that blue paint effectively well, and not just get there, but can disrupt a defensive core. And you can frustrate the defense, and you could get Darnell Nurse into the penalty box, and you can disrupt the way things can get played. So right now, Edmonton's defense has never played this well. They've never been able to support that net front area in front of their goaltender as well as they are doing right now. The biggest test for them can they do it against a Florida Panthers team that gets there as good as any team in the league to the blue paint and disrupts them. So I think that, again, we talk about that forecheck pressure, but it's the next step. It's getting to that net front. Can Florida get there? And if they can't, and Florida struggled to get there against Toronto, they really did. Florida couldn't generate offense early in that Toronto series. If they can get frustrated, it's hard for Florida to generate offense if they can't get to that blue paint.
Sergei Bobrovsky's numbers are sparkling once again, and it's interesting to look back at last year's Cup Final, and that series really was bookended by just two fantastic Sergei Bobrovsky games. How's he looked so far in these playoffs, and how much of that game-stealing sort of ability does he still have, or has he been more up and down this year? Like, what's your read on Bob?
It's funny because he's been good. You go by his numbers, he's got a 2.11 through the entire playoffs, but you go to what he did in the Eastern Finals, and his goals against average was 1.6. Below 2 in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's fantastic. Save percentage of .935 in the Eastern Finals. He is ramping it up. And the one thing about Bobrovsky, yes, he's had tough games in this playoffs. Absolutely he has. The one thing about Bobrovsky is he makes the big save when he needs to make it. And when you saw Edmonton go into Dallas, I think that was one of the big things missing. And I had a rant on what I think about Ottinger and getting pulled. We won't get into that, but Ottinger didn't make that big save. He didn't make the big save when he was good. He was fine. He was good, but he wasn't really good. And he didn't make the big save. Bobrovsky, you can see every game that they won, you can pinpoint 2 or 3, 5 alarm bell saves. Like, oh my gosh, how did he even get there on that one? And that's what Bobrovsky is going to have to be to get over on the Edmonton Oilers. He is going to have to be elite. He is going to need to make that 1 or 2, oh my goodness, saves every single game, because the Oilers can provide the offense that's going to have to create that. But Skinner did the same thing. Skinner in the first round was miserable. In the conference finals, he was at 2.01 goals against. Save percentage of .924. Stuart Skinner, .924. So both of these goaltenders are hot at the exact right time, and they're both getting ready. And right now, the goaltending battle, I still have to give a little check mark to Bobrovsky. One, he's won the Cup, and he has won those games. But it's much, much, much closer than it was a year ago in this time, statistically, and where they're playing going into this finals. This is a much closer goaltending battle than I think people are giving credit to.
I would completely agree. I think a lot of stuff too, like even like when you look at the Dallas series, Edmonton going into it, I feel like they were very underappreciated in certain spots of their game, especially on the depth side of things as well. But obviously no Zach Hyman for the Oilers. They've played one game without him so far, and I don't think it's fair to say they found a replacement, because we're all assuming Jeff Skinner just comes right out of the lineup anyway for Connor Brown. But if there's someone on the Oilers forward group right now that you think needs to kind of step into that role of what Hyman is left behind, like who do you think that should be?
It's funny, you were just talking about Podkolzin, and it's a guy that's got one goal through the playoffs, and you don't look at him as being, hey, he's going to provide the offense, but Hyman hasn't been providing the offense either. To be fair, I mean, he got that one game where he gets the two rush chances and gets in behind their defense of Dallas, and he had those chances, but he hasn't been a guy driving the offense like he did a year ago. He had 14 goals through 3 rounds last year. He doesn't have that. So you just need somebody who can win the wall battles. And Connor Brown, first of all, get him back in the lineup. That's going to be a huge addition to this lineup. But that third line with Janmark Arvidsson and Podkolzin, by the way, they're second in 5-on-5 goals in forward lines for the Edmonton Oilers team. And not aligned with McDavid or Draisaitl. It's Janmark Arvidsson and Podkolzin. They have 5-5-on-5 goals in the series. They are going to have to be a big part of what happens here, because if you're the Florida Panthers, you are focusing on 97 and 29. Your defensive thrust, all your top defensive pair, your top defensive forwards, they are going to be out when those two guys are on the ice. They're going to do their best they can to get those players out there. That leaves more ice for other players. And Edmonton has done an outstanding job this season at spreading out the offense, something they hadn't done a year ago or prior to that with McDavid. I think that line, and I will say Podkolzin is going to have to be a guy that you're going to notice in this series. And it doesn't necessarily mean on the score sheet. It's winning those wall battles. It's getting the puck out of the corner and helping provide some offense from down below. And I think Connor Brown, same thing. I think it's those depth guys that you're going to look back if Edmonton's able to win this series and go, gosh, that guy was really good and he made a huge difference, because Hyman is usually that guy. He won't be there.
Another thing from last year's Cup Final, and we've obviously been talking about it a lot because I think it's a reason for Oilers fans to be very optimistic. Leon Draisaitl did not find the back of the net once in last year's Stanley Cup Final. I think he was fighting some sort of an injury. He was kind of, if you want to put it simply, he was maybe out of gas by the time they got to the Cup Final, but he's been really good in these playoffs. I thought against Dallas early on, he was tremendous. He's played 135 5-on-5 minutes away from Connor McDavid. He's only been scored on 3 times. Like, I feel like he's morphed into this. Like, if you want me to like play defensively and be that guy, I'll be that guy. But I also think in this Cup Final, they probably need him to be scoring a little bit too.
Yeah, certainly. But he's tied for the lead in goals right now with Corey Perry with 7. But he's not that dominating 10, 14 goal scorer. But But what I find most interesting about Draisaitl is his ability to spread the wealth. And I think this is the most important thing for the Edmonton Oilers right now. I really do. With points by Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl offensively, when one of them has a point in a goal, they've got a point in 38 of 65 goals. 38 of 65. That means without them, they have 41% of their goals have been scored by the Edmonton Oilers without Draisaitl and McDavid. 41% without those two. Last year, it was 30%. Those two combined for 70% of the goals. They were in on 7 out of every 10 goals. So that just shows me they can do it different ways. So if I'm Florida and I said, gosh, last year, if I shut down those two, we're going to win. This year, that's not the case. Draisaitl has done something different too this year. It's not just the speed and the shot down low on the power play. His ability to defend and get back in the play is absolutely impressive. His two-way game, his ability to use his speed to get back and play through the back check and track through the neutral zone and be through the middle of the ice, he's been phenomenal. He's got something. I know he's a special player and everybody in Edmonton's like, yeah, no kidding. But he's got something different. He's trying to prove something like he is the guy, not just, it's not just Barkov that can play two sides of the puck. I can too. And if I don't have it, I'm going to get it back. So I think that's what Draisaitl's role needs to be here. It's also that plus minus. He's plus 11 right now through 3 rounds. He's playing fantastic on both sides of the puck.
If people want more from Petey, you can go find his YouTube. We threw the link to it in our chat inside the coach's room for those of you listening in podcast form. But Petey, let's wrap with give us your prediction, I guess. Like, how do you think this thing plays out? Is there a path? How clear is the path to victory for the Oilers? Do you think they can execute enough to bring a Stanley Cup to Edmonton?
This is hard. And when you're predicting, when you're down to final 2 teams, last year I had Florida, and honestly I had them in 6. I didn't think it was going to go 7, and Connor McDavid proved me wrong. And it wasn't just Connor McDavid's ability to score. It's what you saw off the ice. And we've all seen the clips in behind in the locker room and the way he's pushed this team and willed this team. And I think right now, because they're starting at home, and game 1 is in Edmonton, it's just different there. And you guys have been to playoff games there, and you've seen what the city is like. It's not like that in Florida. You don't get that buzz, that excitement. That it's not just the entire community pushing you through and willing you through this. I think the players on the Edmonton Oilers feel like they owe this to the community for sticking with them and supporting them and being their voice behind them. I would look out for the Edmonton Oilers in this series. I think they have the intangibles. I wish they had Hyman. I really do, because I think he's a difference maker against players like Tkachuk and Bennett, and I think he can help in that area. But the Edmonton Oilers right now are playing better hockey. They're defending better. They're creating chances off of the rush that Florida doesn't defend extremely well because they're so tight. So I think Edmonton's going to be able to get in behind them to create offensive opportunities. And Skinner just needs to make the saves he's supposed to. He doesn't need to be all world. He just needs to be a little bit better than good. I think the Oilers find a way this year. And I think the Stanley Cup goes back to Canada. I don't think it's going to be quick, and I don't think it's going to be easy. I think this is a long series that may end up at Game 7 in front of the home fans for the Edmonton Oilers.
Oh, man. I mean, I don't think I could physically handle another 7-game series.
No
it might end me, but I do agree. It's going to be a tough series. And the only way I can see the Oilers doing it, maybe even we can say quicker than 7 games, is there's probably going to be some game where you don't quite deserve to win.
Yeah.
But if you make that one an OT win, or you make that one a 2-1 win, if you can dodge a bullet, and it'll probably be in one of the 2 games that are in Florida, if we're being honest, but if you can dodge a bullet somewhere, that's what it's going to come down to. Because last year, Florida dodged a bullet in game 1. Edmonton was all over them. There were scoring chances galore, pucks, like you said, sliding through Bobrovsky's legs and hitting the post. Florida came out of game 1, wiped their brow, and was like, all right, now we go. It'll be a similar thing for Edmonton. At some point, they're going to have to just win one they don't deserve, if that makes sense.
Well, you should be excited as a community, and the Edmonton Oilers fans have to be excited from where this team is right now. There were points in this regular season that you said, this team, they're falling through the standings. I'm not sure. There were points you're going, are they going to make the playoffs? And now you look at this team right now and the way they are playing, and it's not just 2 players carrying them. And that's what makes this team different. This is a complete team that can defend through the neutral zone. They can defend the rush. They're getting good sticks from their defensemen. They can keep them out of the front of the net. I think Ekholm even brings that to a new level. And all of the things you need, all of the check boxes you need to check are there, except maybe the penalty kill. You gotta stay out of the box, because right now that's one area that can shift this series. The Edmonton Oilers have struggled on the penalty kill, and they got to stay out of the box. But right now, man, this is an exciting time to be an Oiler fan.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun in Edmonton. I said it with Louie earlier in the show. I love when this city is on display, when it's as beautiful as it is. PD, great analysis as always. Inside the coach's room is the YouTube if people want to hear more, and we'll have you on one more time before the end of this Cup final. All right?
Can't wait, guys. Can't wait. It's gonna be fun to watch. We'll all be here on Wednesday, but reach out anytime. Thanks for having me on.
Perfect.
Right,
there you go. Steve
later.
Peters. Find him inside the coach's room. Find him on x.com at @SPetersHockey. But a big thanks to PD for swinging by on the Star Mechanical guest line. His appearance also brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. You can get a look at all of their Canadian mined diamonds and lab-grown diamonds online at charmdiamondcenters.com. It's also the spot where you can get a custom ring built and delivered in less than 4 weeks through the Charm Masterpiece program. The Charm Diamond Flexity card even allows you to get 0% financing on your purchase and get approved in minutes. charmdiamondcenters.com. He's one of the smartest people we have on our show.
Yes, he is.
I got chills when he said the Oilers can do it.
I also did.
It's a mix between getting chills and wanting to throw up.
Yeah, there's always part of you that obviously that like believes they can do it, but
Always
it's also hard to believe it sometimes as well, just because you've like seen this team in so many different angles, and when you're in so thick into it, you don't really think about them being a legit winner. Like they still feel like such an underdog to me, and they're in the final for the second year in a row. I know, it's crazy.
I can't driving in today. I see one of the billboards advertising the Cup final and all that when Game 1 is, and I'm just like, man, if you would have showed me that billboard 3 months ago, I would have always believed, but there were points where it looked bleak, man, and here we are. We're ready to go with a Game 1 on Wednesday. We're going to be at Media Day tomorrow. We're flying to Florida on Sunday. I can't wait to even just be flying to Florida on Sunday.
Yeah.
How many Edmonton Oilers jerseys are on our flight?
I know. I was thinking that too. Like, that's the early flight.
Yeah.
I knew there was one that was early.
9 a.m.
Okay. All right. I'll be there. Yeah, totally. It's going to be cool. I'm very excited. Remember last year when we went down, we met that one gentleman. Oh, I forget his name, but he was working with the NHL and he was a NAIT student. He was sat right in front of us.
Really?
I can't remember his name. Sorry about that. But he turned around to us and like, "You're the Oilersnation guys." I'm like, "No, could be anyone."
All right. Let's wrap up the show here. One more thing that we really got to do, and I hope Aaron's ready for it, but it's the menu, and it's brought to you by our friends at Ninja Crispy.
Meet the Ninja Crispy Portable Cooking System. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand.
All right, you've been hearing me talk about it for a while here. The Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable glass air fryer includes 4-quart, 6-cup tempura glass containers and 2 storage lids. It's thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes with the Crispy Power Pod. You get the power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hands. Prep, cook, store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. And get ready, folks. We are giving one away. The time is now. We are kicking off, call it the final month of our show, being 5 days a week. And why not kick it off with a giveaway? Go to our Instagram right now. Find the post, follow Ninja Crispy Canada, and reply to our post with the kind of dish you'd like to cook in your Ninja Crispy. You only have 4 days. You have till June 6th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. So that is 9:59 p.m. Mountain Time on June 6th. That's your deadline. Tell your friends about it. Everybody go enter. Reply. Tag Ninja Crispy. Say what kind of dish you'd like to cook. Follow them on Instagram, and we're going to be giving away one of your very own Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable glass air fryers. You can also visit the website at the link in their description, or at the link in our description.
Yes.
Liam, no hockey tonight, no hockey till Wednesday. No NBA finals tonight until next week or something like that.
I think they play Thursday.
Thursday, okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, what are you doing tonight? What's on your menu? No baseball tonight either. No Blue Jays, who swept the they swept the Athletics in 4
is that
straight.
what they're called now?
Just the Athletics.
The Sacramento Athletics.
No, just the Athletics.
I'm going to go to the mall tonight, I think. Hang out with my fiance since we have such a busy week. And then we're dipping out to Florida. So, spending some time with her, getting the good bucks. We'll be good. Memorial Cup was yesterday. That was a decent game. What was the final score? 4-1, I think. 5-1, whatever it was. London won. So that was big. Now there's all this. Where's McKenna going? That's the huge news around the hockey world. I think we could see that before the Cup final.
You think before Wednesday?
Yeah, I think there'll be a lot more speculation. At least he's probably got to go for some visits, I would assume.
He is going to go for visits this week. Frank reported that.
I think he's going to Penn State. My guess is that Gavin McKenna will commit to Penn State. I know there was some speculation of Michigan State. But Penn, I don't know. There's something they're the team. Like Michigan's great, but they're a bit overrated, if I have to be honest. And Michigan State is even more overrated. But Penn State went to the Final Four last season. I think that's really good. Also, Sam O'Reilly obviously won the Memorial Cup.
Some Mulek just said that.
Yeah,
Shout out to
and
Sam
the
O'Reilly.
other fella, William Nickel.
Yeah, 2 Oiler prospects winning the Mem Cup.
So that was great.
All right. I think that is a wrap on today's edition of the show, Liam. I'm going back to the office. We got a special guest joining us for real life today.
Nice.
And then giddy up because tomorrow's media day, one of the busiest days of the year for us. Can't wait. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It's a lot of fun to be down at Rogers Place at these events because they put on such great food.
The food, and you know what? Here, I loved what Florida did for us last year.
Yeah.
I think the food in Edmonton is going to be better.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, the Oilers do a really, really good job. The NHL does a really, really good job. We're credentialed media boys this week. Rest of the week, we have some good guests lined up. We're going to be down at the arena meeting people. It's our second year now covering a cup final. So, maybe we'll chat with even more people, come out of our shell a little bit.
Or I'll sit in the corner and not say a word to anyone.
Yeah, maybe.
One of those two things will happen.
All right. Thank you to everybody in the YouTube chat. Great stuff. Steve Peters, Louie DeBrusk, both fantastic guests as always. Tell a friend about the show. You can talk about it together. Ride through this cup final wave with us. I mean, who knows? Who knows where we could be 12 days from now? It's fun to dream.
12 days from now.
June 14th.
I'll be at a wedding.
Well. Okay, that's a wrap. Shout out to Aaron back at the studio. No pregame until Wednesday, obviously, but he'll be back at Greta. Again, call ahead and reserve your spots. We're done. That's a wrap. Download Real Life later today, and then we'll see you right back here tomorrow. 1 o'clock Mountain. Special time. 1 o'clock Mountain from Media Day. Oila.